Hi everybody, welcome to the video section of our Launchmetrics Support Center. Today we're going to be covering how to create and send a contacts mailing. Hopefully at this point you would have already seen a couple of the other videos that we do have regarding contacts, so you're pretty familiar with how to get to the contact manager. Contact mailings are a great way to send out any sort of press releases or announcements regarding your brand or your clients to all of your contacts in your contact manager or specific contacts in your contact manager. If I click on contacts mailing, that's going to take us to exactly where we want to be. So if I click on that, you're going to see right now I don't have any templates found, but if you did have a long list of all your drafts and your sent templates, that's where you're going to find them right here. We're going to go ahead and click on create template. And everything that I see here in red is required. And you'll notice that with the red asterisk. So let's look at the recipient. So this is telling the system who do we want to send out this contacts mailing to. So the way that I start that process is by clicking on the little eyeglass icon here. I can search for my contacts one by one, and I can add them that way. I can just add an email address if I have only email addresses of my contacts. I can put that in and click on the add button. I can also import from my contact group. So if I've created a nice contact group that surrounded the campaign that I'm going to be launching here, I can search by contact groups, for example, and then import all of those people. Lastly, if you've queued your contacts, so I have all of my contacts currently queued from my contact manager. If you do queue your contacts, there'll be a button that says import from contacts queue. I can click on that. And now all of my contacts that I had queued from my contact manager are now in our recipient section. And if there were any contacts that I actually did not want to send an email to, all I would need to do is simply click on the X and they'll be out of my recipients page. So we'll take a look at the send from name. So this is the name that you want your email to look like it's coming from. So I can put in Launchmetrics here. That's who I want my email to look like it's coming from. The send from email, so support@launchmetrics.com, that's the email address that I want my mailing to look like it's coming from. The reply to email, so it's really important that your reply to email is actually the real person who is going to be accepting any emails if a recipient were to click reply. So this email address you want to be really more of a specific person in charge of this mailer, whereas the send from email you can kind of mask it as coming from anybody. The subject line, so the subject line is obviously the subject of your email. So for me, we're going to talk about the Fashion Talks. So listen to Fashion Talks podcast. That'll be the subject line that I'll go with. Before we move on to the body of the email part, I just want to also make note that this domain name that I'm using in my send from email @launchmetrics.com, that's a domain @launchmetrics.com that is validated for anti-spam. So that means that this email address that I'm using has a very high likelihood of not going to a recipient's spam inbox. If I am using my brand or agency's email domain name, and I see, for example, this yellow caution icon, that's saying that within the Launchmetrics system, the email address that we're trying to send emails from is not validated for anti-spam, and there's a degree of possibility that the mailer could go to a recipient's spam folder. It definitely does not mean that everyone's going to have it go to their spam, but it does open up the possibility that it could go to spam. So the way that you would remedy that situation is by validating the domain name. And to do that, you would click on this article, this link here to our support center. Typically what teams will do, they'll take this article and they'll hand it off to someone on their IT team or whoever is in charge of the DNS manager at the company, and they'll modify the SPF record, which essentially is saying that Launchmetrics contact mailing can send out an email using @brand name @agency.com. Whatever your brand or agency is, you can use that email address. So it is important that you do get that validated for anti-spam, just so you can feel comfortable using that and not have to worry too much about the mailer going to someone's spam folder. Obviously, there are a lot of other factors that could contribute to a mailer not getting directly to someone's inbox. but making sure that the send from email has a nice green check, that's really a great start. And if you have any other questions regarding that, please feel free to reach out to us at our support center and our support team, support@launchmetrics.com. That's a great way to learn a little bit more about getting your domain name validated for anti-spam. So in our body of the email, it's a pretty standard, what you see is what you get sort of, centering and bolding, italics. A lot of people have already seen this in their lifetime through using Microsoft Word. So nothing that's too out of the ordinary. We have custom database variables, which is a great tool that allows you to blast out your contact mailing to as many people as you need, but still have that personal touch. So if I do dear first name, that's going to pull the first name from all of my recipients. So if I preview that, you're going to see Dear Anna, Dear Derek, Dear Tom. So I can send this out to all of these recipients, but when they receive it, it's going to look like I did address them personally. So I'm going to work on the body of my email. So please follow this link to listen to the latest Fashion Talks podcast. So if I want to put in, if I now want to hyperlink, let's say this hashtag Fashion Talks podcast, all I need to do is just highlight it with my cursor, click on the link icon, grab my link that I want to copy, paste that in there. And now if I were to show the preview, I have a hyperlinked link that my recipients can then click on. If I wanted to insert a graphic image, the way that I would do that would be to click on this mountain-looking icon here that says Insert Image. So I click on that. I'm going to browse for my file. And I can click OK. Now I might notice that when I do this, my image is a little bit too big for the mailing. So what we suggest is that if you double click on your image, putting the number 600, it's almost like a little magic number, putting that 600 in the longest side. So in this case, my width is longer than my height. 600 is greater than 300. The width is the longest side of my graphic image. So if I click on OK, and now I show the preview, now our image has come down to a better size for us. I can also hyperlink my graphic image if I double click on the picture, if I just click on the image and then click on the link here, this is also where I can paste in that link. So now when I show my preview, my recipient could click on both the picture as well as the hyperlink there. So you can definitely hyperlink an image. You can definitely put in GIF images. The only things that you really can't embed into the mailer is a PDF as well as an actual video. So just be mindful of those things. Now I want to talk about the difference in when we do our spacing. So if I'm writing my goodbye, if I write thank you, if I just click on the enter button, it's going to give me an extra space. So if I show the preview, you're going to see that there's an extra space between the thank you and the Launchmetrics. Now, if I didn't want that extra space, the trick and the way to properly execute that would be to hold down the Shift key and then click on Enter. So again, I held down my Shift key and then I clicked Enter. Now when I show my preview, there's no space between the two lines there. So I know that teams do utilize that. Definitely, if you have questions on spacing, holding the Shift key and hitting Enter usually solves that for you. Now, you're also able to send yourself test emails. We always suggest sending yourself a test email just to make sure everything looks right. To do that, after I click on preview, show preview, if I need to click on this arrow pointing to the right, As you can see, I can't click on send test email. I need to tell the system who I'm previewing for. So if I click on this arrow here and then I click on send test email, this is where I can put in my own personal email address. Click on send. And pretty much by the time I get over to my email, you're going to see that my email did come in. So it happens very quickly. You can send as many test emails to yourself as you need. As we talked about before, this is my send from email, or excuse me, my send from name, my send from email, as well as my reply to email. So those are where some of those things go, which we talked about. I think that mailer looks pretty good. So if I think it looks pretty good, what I'm going to do then is go ahead and save as a draft. And like I talked about before, so once you have your drafts saved and you click on search, you're going to see them here in this list. It's going to tell me the subject, the name, the email, who my reply to is, what user created and when, as well as how many recipients are currently set up in this mailing template. Now, one thing I want to also take a look at is using source code. So if your team has the luxury of working with a graphic designer who creates rich HTML coding for all your press releases, you can import that code directly into the body of the email. So the way that we put this template together, we typed everything out, dear first name, we did all that. If I click on the source, you're going to see that behind all that is a series of HTML coding. So not pretty basic here, but if I copy this code, so I'm going to copy this code for example, I'm going to X out of here. I'm going to start a new template just so you guys can see. If a graphic designer from my company has sent me along HTML code, all I need to do is take that code that they sent to me, click on source, and if I paste that code directly into the source and then click on the source one more time, you're going to see all that rich HTML stuff that your graphic designer put together. All of that is going to show up really quickly, really easily, and really nicely directly into the body of the email. So definitely take advantage of any good graphic designers that you might work with and feel free to use their HTML code in the body of those emails. So I'm going to X out, and always remember to save your drafts. Obviously in this case I'm just clicking out, but you always want to make sure that you are saving your drafts if you do spend a lot of time working on your contact mailing. And if I did click on the X, the system would warn me before I did X out. So always make sure though that you do save your draft. Then once you're ready to send out your mailing, you can use the options drop down here and you can click on send email. You can view the recipients, and maybe you want to say, actually, I don't want to send this out to Kylie Jenner. So I can click on the X and I can remove her from the list of recipients. I can go back to my contact mailing. I can create a duplicate. So if I really like this mailing and I want to use it as a template for future mailers, I can just click on create duplicate, make any edits that I needed from here, save it, and then that hopefully will save you some time. But let's just send out this mailer. So if I click on the options dropdown and then click on send email, the system's going to ask if I'm sure that I want to listen to the hashtag Fashion Talks podcast. If I click on OK, now my mailer is going out. So at this point, please be patient. You're going to see that the color legend right now, it's going to say outbox and then versus sent. So eventually it's going to turn blue and it's going to be sent. And then once that happens, I can click on view recipients, and you're going to see that now the system we're waiting for a delivery response. So it does take a few minutes for the mailer to go out for sure, depending on how many that you send out. But after, I'd say about 20-25 minutes, your mailer should definitely all be sent out. And then this is going to give you the opportunity to now go in and take a look at delivery responses. So who sent successfully and opened and read my message, who did not read the message yet. It'll let us know if there's anyone that failed, so maybe the email address was wrong, it would tell us that there. So at this point, after you've sent out your mailing, your work is pretty much done. I can't go back and delete the mailer once I've sent it out. You can now see that there's the blue color. So that blue color means that my mailer has been sent to those 5 people. It'll tell me the date that it was sent. And then again, from here, I can view the recipient, so or create a duplicate. So that's the whole process for sending a contacts mailing. Hopefully this was informative. Please, if you have any questions, reach out to support@launchmetrics.com, and we'll be happy to help you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.